Welcome to the NAMB Podcast, where we bring you the voices that drive the mortgage industry. Join dynamic hosts Ginger Bell and Matt Shields as they dive into bold conversations with top experts, industry leaders, and change makers from across the country. From insider insights to game-changing trends, this is your front row seat to what's happening right now in the world of home finance.
Well, hey there. Welcome to another episode of the NAMB Podcast. My name is Ginger Bell, and I have with me my co-host, Mr. Matt Shields. How you doing today, Matt?
I am doing great, Ginger. I'm excited for our guest today.
Yes, we have a very special guest today, Matt Coles, who's the National Sales Manager for FirstFunding. So, Matt, thanks for hopping on today.
I am super jealous of your guys' promo intro into the thing. I gotta upgrade mine. I gotta talk to the person who hosts my podcast.
Whatever. Yeah, we wanted something kind of jazzy.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Any opportunity that I get to connect with industry professionals is always a win for me. So thank you very much.
Yeah, so let's just dive right in. Matt, you have been around the industry for a long time, and I know have seen a lot of the changes, the ups, the downs, the goods, the bads, and all of that. And I want to begin because I know FirstFunding has had a phenomenal track record of helping brokers transition into that next phase of becoming a non-delegated lender. So looking at the landscape we're in today, what are you seeing out there? We hear there's obviously an influx of brokers. We've seen that in the numbers. What are you seeing out there?
Well, if you look back, right, the evil broker of 2012, and look where we are today. And the broker world really started to grow again, right, after some down years in 2018, 2019, 2020. And it's been explosive. And what ended up happening is I think that a lot of the people in the wholesale space, a lot of the mortgage brokers who survived that down period believe in the model, right? The mortgage broker is a good model to be in, right? And so it attracted a lot of new people from the retail side, this big retail, and the LOs came over and they joined on the wholesale side and they realized, oh my God, look how much diversity I have. Look at the ease of technology that I have. Look at the products that I have. And they saw all the opportunity. And now they're going back, and a lot of times what I really always focus on in this side of the business, that broker to banker, is they're building their brand, right? So brand is incredibly important to a lot of people. Everyone spends a lot of time doing their social media about brand, going out and talking to realtors about their brand, and doing a lot of brand specific. And a lot of people do a very good job about building their brand. And when you go to a borrower at the closing table and that brand is not consistent with what's on their loan docs, kind of loses it, right? So we're starting to see a lot of people say, you know what, I want to move into this space because I want my brand from start to finish on a transaction.
I love it. Absolutely. Yeah, so with that in mind, and I know, Matt Shields, you lead up the NAMB Young Professional group and the calls. And so, for specifically our young professionals, as they're kind of navigating through this, what are the questions that they're having in terms of building their business and building their brand?
Yeah, so we are seeing, where was I just recently? We were at MBA, Western Secondary, which is usually kind of a little stuffy, at least in the years past. And the people that put this on this year, California MBA, in particular, the leaders, Kim Nichols and Nick Babarkas, they spearheaded the efforts. Super young crowd. Trending lower, and it was really great to see, right? It was really awesome to see a lot of younger faces in the crowd. And I'm not a younger face anymore. I've been doing this for 25 years, but it's great to see that kind of they're they're growing, right? And meaning they're expanding their career and they're elevating their career. And we talk to a lot of young people that are breaking off and, hey, I want to do my own broker shop. What does it mean to make, broker to banker? And what I'm really super thrilled about this time around, and it's a little bit different than when I was younger, is they want all the information. They want all the answers. They're going to ask 1,000 questions. I think sometimes my generation said, I'm going to do it myself. So I'm damn everyone. I'm just going to go out and figure it out for myself. And this time we're getting asked a lot of questions about what does it look like? What are the risks? What are the wins? What are the challenges? What do I need to be watching out for? And it's great to hear those type of questions, because I want anyone that's moving in from the broker to banker space, I want them to be well informed about the entire ecosystem, not just a sales pitch from a warehouse facility. I want to make sure they understand the scope of what they're getting into. And so, I have a young sales team myself, and they radiate the positive energy that it takes, to sell mortgages and to talk warehouse financing, and all that, begets, enthusiasm about the space. So there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of enthusiasm, something that we probably haven't seen since the early 2000s.
Yeah, that's exciting.
They're excited. They're excited for knowledge. They're excited to get out there. And the feedback from our young professional calls, they just want more and more and more information. They researched it on their time, but then they love coming to the events and, like you said, asking the questions.
Yeah, so this feels a little bit different than the early 2000s. That's when I first got started in the industry, right? We were so busy. Loans were everywhere, right? You took a hot air breath and you could get a loan. And so I think there was a lot of, greed motivated wanting to get into the industry, right? This time around, it's not an easy industry. It's not easy right now to write loans or to get people to do a loan with you. And so the enthusiasm that we're seeing is really kind of promising, because it sets up for a really great, long, sustained run. If and when rates do drop, I'm comfortable with the fact that we're going to go back to refinances are the topping on your cupcake, the purchase business that they're all getting and they're excited about today. That's exactly what's going to sustain us for a long, long term in the future.
Absolutely. So having that conversation then, and people are asking, okay, how can I do this? How can it build my brand? What's the first thing that they should look at? So they're a broker and they're saying, okay, I have my business. I want to be able to grow my team. I want to be able to go to the next level. What's the first thing they should look at in determining if that's the right step for them?
They should look at themselves. I mean, that's ultimately what it is, right? I mean, Ginger, you and I did what I think was probably a very powerful, I know it was a very powerful series this year about business planning. And I encourage everyone to really take a look at that, whether you're trying to improve some facet of your personal life, putting pen to paper about goals and what it all looks like, but really taking a look at themselves and saying, what's going to make me happy? What's my objective and what's my purpose? And writing it down, putting pen to paper about, Ginger, what did we cover? We covered what's the right customer for you, right? I think gone are the days, and hopefully, right? Gone are the days where an LO says, I do everything. Well, you can't be a master of everything, right? Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully you have a lane that you're really good in, and hopefully you build a social circle of people that says, hey, you know what? In order for the borrower to have the best experience, I'm not very good at this transaction, and I recognize that. But guess what? I met somebody that's really good at this, and I'm going to hand that off over here. Ultimately, that's what's really good for the borrower. So going back to taking a look inward, figure out what you want your brand and your marketing to be, and we always talk about being authentic to yourself. One of the things that I know happens in a lot of social media is, we only see the good, right? Look at me on vacation. Look at me here. Look at me. You never see the grind. And I really appreciate people whose brand also shows the hard work and the losses that they take, I think that's also a very important thing to put out there as well.
Yeah.
That authenticity is what they relate to. That's what your customer, that's what everyone's going to see, and they want to work with who they can truly relate to. And I'm so happy that you touched on that.
Yeah. If someone wants a video of me practically throwing my laptop through the wall this morning, I'm sure it could be out there. It's not all puppies and rainbows every single day, right? There is frustration that comes along in this industry, and I think people would appreciate a real insight, obviously, right? It's like, you know what, there are borrowers that are challenging, more challenging than the other, right? And so it's just you want to be authentic in what you're trying to approach.
Yeah. So that series, and just if you're listening, that series that Matt and I did, it was actually a 7-month series. And that came about because we had talked about doing business planning. And so when we started creating the content, it's like, this is not a 1-hour webinar. And I think that's the difference, to have the strength to say, I'm going to step into this and look at what those steps are. And that's what we did in the series. And by the way, if you're listening to this, that entire series is available in the NAMB Hive. And so, when we created the NAMB Hive for NAMB, it was to be able to have a resource center where loan officers, where vendors, where anyone can go and access resources, connect with people like, you, Matt, and you, the education that you bring. And so that series is there.
What was the first one that we did? It was like writing down the purpose, or what was the
the first one began with creating their mission and their vision.
Perfect. Right. So the mission statement, right? So I really started to put that in practice, meaning like we do see a lot of new shops, right? Someone breaking off and doing their own thing. And I've kind of gotten in a habit of like asking them, well, share with me what you wrote down as your mission statement, right? Kind of not a standard question for a warehouse facility.
Right.
And oftentimes they don't really have one. And it's kind of like, okay, well, it goes back to, if you don't know what you're working towards, what's going to define success? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just encourage them to be like, listen, just take a minute, right? And I know for me, and we've talked a lot about this, I don't know if we're going to touch on this later, but oftentimes for me, it's very hard to start the framework of what I want to do is in my head, but I just can't put pen to paper sometimes and make it make sense to somebody else. So use AI for that. Hey, I'm just jotting down my thoughts. This is what I want my mission to be. Have it kind of spit out a framework, and then you craft it from there. Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of been my advice for a lot of business owners that I see come across our plate.
Yeah. And knowing the difference between mission and vision, because your mission is what you're doing. Your vision is where you're going. Yep. And oftentimes organizations, no matter how big or small they are, have no idea of what that vision is. And as a leader, being able to have that vision, know what it is, and then share it with everyone on your team to where it becomes a part of them and what they're doing too. And, that leadership is so important. I'm speaking at a lot of leadership, at a lot of conferences on leadership this season for some reason. And that's something that I'm making a part, the core, as far as you have to have that vision. If you don't know where you're going, you can't get there. If you don't communicate that with everyone in your organization, they don't give the buy-in and they can't get there. And so it begins with that base. And no matter where you are, and whether you're building a vision for yourself and what you're doing in your branding or an entire organization, that's the base. And that's what we started with. And then it goes into, understanding, what does your business look like? You talked about, you cannot be everything to everyone. And I think that's the first thing to look at is like, who am I? Who do I like working with? And that was one of the things we spent a lot of time with, is identifying your unique customer, what that looks like, and being able to identify that. There's so many loan programs out there. I just spoke at a conference yesterday on non-QM, and that is a growing field. In fact, I think it's 54% of originations are going into the non-QM space right now.
Wow, I believe it too. It's a hot one.
Yeah, and the numbers, it's funny because I was in California, I was in LA, Matt, and we pulled up the numbers as far as origination in California, and I don't remember off the top of my head, and it was staggering. And people aren't even realizing that. So, identifying maybe not just where you are, but where's the market going? What are people looking for? We're in the gig economy. People are not necessarily W-2'd anymore. And so you have to look at that, and then you have to shift. It's one of the constants that we have. It's like, what do I need to pay attention to? And that's a nice thing in being a non-Del. Also, you still have those capabilities to be able to do those types of loans, right?
Yeah, we're incredibly proud of what we're doing with the non-QM market over here at FirstFunding. And we talk about it quite a bit because there is an underlying fear that, hey, I can't do non-QM, non-Del. And we say, no, we support you if you want to do that. Obviously with some guardrails on it, but we'll definitely be able to help support that growth and that opportunity. And so we actually have seen lenders that start off with like, hey, I'm only going to do the easy conventional loans. And then I'm going to start doing my VA loans. And I'm going to, and so we have conversations with them about opening up their book of business if they're open to that conversation about allowing non-QM on their warehouse line.
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched on AI a little bit, and I know having a conversation about that. What's FirstFunding doing in that space as far as looking at AI?
A lot of people talk about it, and I'm really looking forward to the day that we see it. What I'm afraid of with the AI side of it, there's a couple different things. I'm actually going to talk about a different side of it. A couple things that I'm afraid of, right? And this kind of, Matt, goes to what your focus might be too. I have a fear that a lot of people are going to become AI dependent, meaning no more critical thinking. I plug this into the system. This is what it spit out, and this is my answer to your question, right? And it's happened to me where I've had people bring me clearly AI generated solutions. I'm like, did you even read this before you turned it over to me?
Nope, no, I didn't.
No, they thought that this is what I wanted. And it's the idea of critical thinking, right? AI is there to not do your thinking for you, but to kind of formulate your thoughts. But I still think that the eye of it needs to be, hey, I need some level of human interaction before I put into place something that's going in there. So I'm really worried about that side of it, especially with some people who are just trying to take shortcuts in something that they're trying to do. I'm excited about some of the data analytics and everything that I can do. I'm a big data nerd. Just get me a spreadsheet, and I love diving into the numbers because there's a lot of truth in numbers, and to be able to get to that faster is super exciting for me. And, listen, at the end of the day, if we can make repeatable processes simpler with AI, that's ultimately what we're doing. Ordering a wire through a portal is a repeatable process that we should be able to very much cut down and simplify with the evolution of AI. It's the why that I'm worried about. I'm worried that some people are just going to rely on AI for the why. And that why is still human interaction, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, because who's using AI needs to use it as a tool. Like, don't use it to replace what you're doing. Use it to make it efficient, faster, easier, more productive for you to do what you need. I'm so happy you touched on that because I feel like everyone just wants the easy shortcut.
Yeah, there's
about it. Yeah,
there's a lot of social media posts about how AI is going to replace this job and this job, especially in our, a lot of it in our own industry, right? Yeah. And I don't know. I used an LO when I bought my house. I love that LO. I don't ever want that relationship to go away. It was guidance that I got. It was advice. It was follow-up. AI doesn't, it's just, there's certain interactions I don't want to replace.
Yeah.
Especially something as big as buying a house.
Yeah.
But that loan officer who's personable using that tool, they're going to be the next wave to really stand out.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So before we close out, I know, Matt, you are doing a session. I'm fortunate enough to be the moderator of that session at NAMB National. And it's going to be on the main stage, and it's going to, you're putting together a great panel to look at what does that look like to become non-del. So who's going to be on that panel?
Yeah, we're looking forward to that panel. We're going to have an investor on there that buys non-delegated loans and operates in the wholesale space. To talk about what that process flow looks like. We're going to have a compliance partner out there to talk about, hey, listen, like this is, you are going to need to be in a compliant state to operate as a lender. And then we're going to have an AMC, right? Because I think AMC is also a very important relationship in the process of becoming a lender. Ultimately, and again, I'm just going to go back to it. Like, it's not my job to try to convince someone to change their business model. I just want them to have all the information available to them so that they can make the prudent decision for their own business model, right? I support the wholesale channel. If you want to come and do non-delegated for a while, but it's not for you, I support whatever you want to do in your business model. And I just want people to walk away and be well informed about what that looks like and take away some of the myths that I do here. So my background, previously, I was on the wholesale side, running the West Coast for a large wholesale lender. And when I moved over into the non-delegated space, now I only speak non-delegated, and I'll put a button in this right now. It's amazing how quickly you forget everything that you learned in the last 20 years. Here I am a year and a half later, and I speak a lot of warehouse lending and delegated and non-delegated. And there is a lot of myths to overcome. Right. And I heard this, I heard that. And I just want to make sure that we're all putting it all out there. There is risk that needs to be talked about. There are wins that need to be talked about. And so we're just hoping to have a great time. Thank you for helping out with that, Ginger. NAMB does such a great job with their meet. I think, I've been probably going to these NAMB meetings for 18, 19 years.
Yeah.
At this point. Awesome. Last year was huge. They're selling space like in the hallway, like there's so many people that want to be a part of it. And super excited, super jazzed to be back out there. I looked at the agenda today. It looks fantastic. Excited to see all the familiar faces. I guarantee you we'll probably see a younger crowd than we did 2 or 3 years ago. So I'm excited about what's going to be happening out there.
Yeah, it is exciting for the young professionals. I actually was on a call with NAMB earlier today, and I think Valerie had shared that the average age now, which used to be upwards of 50 plus, has now dropped down to 45. Wow. So that's very encouraging, and we love hearing that. And I think it's a matter of, just like you, it's like, what do people want? What are the tools you need? The younger generation definitely wants the information. They want the education. They want to know all the steps. They look through all of that. And so, doing that investigative work and learning all of that is so important. So thank you, Matt, for all you and your team does in that, to be able to do that. And we're excited for NAMB. So if you're listening to this before NAMB, make sure you get registered. It's October 17th, 18th, and 19th. Matt, you'll be on stage on the 19th on Sunday. And so make sure and stop by and say hi. And so for our listeners, Matt, if they do want to reach out to you, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can always just email me or connect with me on LinkedIn. Probably LinkedIn is probably the most active place where I connect with a lot of different people. And I'll share this. Anyone that ever wants to ask the question that they're afraid to ask to somebody else, you can feel free to bring it to me, because I've asked a lot of dumb questions in my life. And I love the idea that there are people like yourselves in this industry willing to be a mentor to people, because I don't know that really existed 20, 25 years ago. So I'm super excited, and feel free to come up to me and say, hey, I don't understand this, or I don't get this, or what can you help me with that? I love that part about our industry, and I've seen that evolution in the last 5 or 6 years. So I'm super thrilled about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, Matt, thank you.
Yeah, last thing, you can always follow us at FirstFundingUSA.com.
Absolutely. And you have a podcast too, which is the Non-Del Influencers podcast.
Non-Del Influencers podcast. It's been a hit. People are clamoring to get onto it, and I'm super excited to continue it on a go-forward basis.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for being on the NAMB podcast. We appreciate your insight. And Matt Shields, thank you so much. It's like the Matt and Matt show here.
Love it. And thank you, Ginger. And Matt, can't wait to see you at NAMB National. And thank you so much for your time today with us.
All right. Cheers, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And make sure and tune in. NAMB Podcast. We release a new episode every single week. And we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to the NAMB Podcast, brought to you by the National Association of Mortgage Brokers. For more episodes, resources, and guest interviews, visit nambpodcast.com. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe. And we look forward to seeing you soon.